Okay, so Mom and I got the okra planted, and I just got the mini soaker hoses laid out. I've done the video in the past, and I'll do a more in-depth video. Guineas are upset about something. I'll do a more in-depth video about this this drip irrigation system I use. For these rows, I like to use this soaker hose. It's a 1/4 inch and works with the 1/4 inch fittings that I've been using. As you can see, it's just the 1/8 inch hose to a T. Tees off and goes to the 1/4 inch soaker hose, and so those work pretty well. You know where your rows are. Now, the okra that I use is the Clemson Spineless, and I've been growing this. This is my 3rd season with it. It does great. It branches out, so I think you get more okra per plant. The plants don't get as tall as other okra varieties, but you know, I think you get great production with this, and you don't need a ladder to pick it at the end of the season. Now, today is the 30th of May, I believe. So I'm getting these in very late. It takes almost 2 months for production to start. I hope I can beat that a little bit because it's going to be particularly warm, so hopefully I can get it to germinate a little bit quicker. The germination time's 2 weeks, so normally I like to have everything planted by May 15th, but this year, after I've wasted time constructing this raised bed, then the rains came, so I never got anything planted for the last 2 weeks, so I'm late to the game, but I think it should be fine because this will give at least 2 months, August and September, full production, and get a lot of okra during that time. So this bed, the okra is planted, the rows are 3 feet apart spacing, and then the plants are 18 inches. I plant the seeds about a 1/2 inch deep, and 18 inches apart for the plant spacing. Now, initially I put 3 seeds about an inch apart or so to ensure that I get germination, and then after they emerge I'll thin it down. I'll pick the best plant, leave it, and then pick out the other 2, and that'll leave an 18-inch spacing between plants, and again 3 feet per row. So here we have 4 rows, and they're about 27 feet long, and this is equivalent. I've grown okra here the past 2 years, the same setup, 4 rows. Of course, it's just been on the ground before. Now I have these raised beds, so I think it may even produce better. I'm hoping the soil is good. I've used it in this other bed and it worked great, so we'll see. I'll fertilize it with some organic fertilizer once it comes up, and we'll see how that does. But just to give an idea of the seeds, the okra seeds are pretty large. They're pretty easy to deal with. Of course, you don't want to use any broken seeds, but by planting 3 seeds in a row about an inch apart, so what I'm doing is I'm just digging a trench a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch deep, and then I put 3 seeds in about that far apart, cover them up with the soil, and those should emerge. When they do, I'll pick the best plant and remove the other 2. And again, the rows are 3 feet apart, and then the spacing is 18 inches between plants. They need that much. The okra plants are really, really large. In fact, by the end of the season, even these are 6 feet tall. They say they don't get that tall, but they do. And they produce a lot of okra. You'll be picking every day, and you need to pick it every day. The more you pick it, the more it grows. The hotter the summer gets, the better it grows. Okra is the best crop down here in the south where it's hot. Just give it some water and give it a little bit of organic fertilizer, and it will thrive. It's a great crop, and also if you look into the nutritional value of okra, it's very, very good. Okra is it's a very nutritious vegetable. And there's my pile of tomato cages. Generally I have a lot more tomatoes, but this year with the COVID crisis we had problems acquiring tomatoes, and the ones I grew got destroyed when a shelf collapsed that they were on. So this year there's going to be 6 tomato plants, and it's going to have to do, and it'll be fine. They need to get going pretty quick though, because it's going to be hot, and once it gets hot, then your tomato production falls off dramatically. And yeah, so we'll get these, we'll turn the water on and see what happens. Critical part here, I almost forgot, and I don't want to do that. This is the backflow preventer. It prevents siphoning of water from the hose back into the faucet. And I'm on a well, so this could potentially contaminate my entire well if I didn't do this. Anything in the hose, chemicals, bacteria or whatever, and you can see it's uphill. Fortunately I have good water pressure that will handle that, but so certainly it would siphon back since I'm delivering the water uphill. So be sure and use the backflow preventer on any hose, but particularly on these drip irrigation systems. Yeah, so I use the manifold here. This goes off to the garden, and then this hose I use to water the chickens and guineas. And if I'm lucky, it will not leak. I usually just, yeah, it doesn't leak. You don't want it leaking because it's a waste of water, but also in the summertime the snakes are attracted to the water. So the first year I was here it was dripping, and one day there was a pygmy rattlesnake right here at the base of this outlet, or this hydrant. So you don't want water around it. When it gets dry in the summer, those reptiles look for the water, and they will find it, and that attracts them to your place. So you don't want that. But okay, so we'll see. Yeah, and we're dripping nice. Takes a little while for the dripping to get going, but I just turned it on seconds ago, and we're dripping here. Now, the issue with this is I can run about 4 hoses, and that's about it on a circuit. They'll drip real good at the start of the hose and at the start of the circuit, but as you go down, you'll get less and less drippage. So probably, you know, it would depend on your water pressure and your individual situation, but for me, I have real good pressure out of the tank. I think it's at 35 psi or 40, and then this is way downhill from the well, so there's gravity working for me. But as you can see, it's dripping down the length of the hoses, and give it another 10 minutes and they'll all be dripping good.